There's a secret that few know, and even fewer understand. A vibrational key hidden in just two simple words that can open doors you never imagined. It's not a complex technique, nor does it demand years of practice. It's something so discreet, so subtle, that you may have already spoken these words before without realizing the power they carry. And the most important part? They only work when kept in silence, when held as a sacred code between you and the universe. In this video, you will discover how to apply this secret in your life and why it can completely transform your reality. But before we continue, I invite you to leave in the comments an affirmative phrase that you feel in your heart right now. No need to explain, just write it with presence. That will open the flow of your intention and set in motion the invisible. What lies ahead could change everything. Few scholars have dared to go as far in the exploration of consciousness as Jacobo Grinberg. A psychologist, neuroscientist, and researcher of spiritual traditions, he devoted his life to investigating the true nature of reality, and his findings challenged everything conventional science believed to be possible. Grinberg developed the theory of the neuronal field, an invisible matrix that connects the human mind to the universal whole. According to him, what you experience as reality is not what truly exists, but what your mind is structured to perceive, and that structure is shaped by words, emotions, intentions, and above all, by hidden patterns that repeat every day without your awareness. Grinberg maintained that certain verbal codes, when used in an elevated state of consciousness, can completely reorganize your life experience. And the more silent and intimate this practice, the greater its manifesting power. Here the science of consciousness and spiritual teachings finally converge. Reality is molded from the inside out, and within you lies a code waiting to be activated. There exists a frequency capable of instantly altering your energy field, an invisible yet immensely powerful force that raises your vibration and aligns your mind with the universe's highest possibilities. This force is called gratitude, but I'm not talking about superficial gratitude, uttered out of convenience or habit. I mean deep gratitude, the kind born from an inner certainty that something is already real, even before it appears in the physical world. Ancient civilizations understood gratitude as a portal. In ancient Egypt, for example, priests gave thanks every morning at sunrise, not because the sun itself was worshipped as a deity, but because acknowledging its presence aligned them with the cycle of life. Indigenous peoples of the Americas saw gratitude as a form of spiritual honor. Before the harvest, they thanked the earth, knowing that the vibration of thankfulness precedes the manifestation of the outcome. In Eastern traditions, masters taught that giving thanks before receiving was a way to signal to the universe that you are already vibrating with the certainty of your desires. Gratitude is not merely a reaction to what has gone well, it is a creative frequency. When you give thanks before seeing the result, you are sending a message to the field. I know this is already done. It is at this point that your reality begins to bend in your favor. Modern neuroscience studies show that genuine feelings of gratitude activate specific brain regions linked to reward and happiness. In other words, you not only feel better, but you reconfigure your internal state to notice opportunities, connections, and pathways that previously went unnoticed. Yet there is a common mistake that prevents people from living this power: the way they communicate with the divine. In many prayers, people approach God as spiritual beggars. They ask, plead, cry out for help, as if the creative source needs convincing that you are deserving. But they rarely give thanks, rarely say, thank you for what I have not yet seen, but already feel is mine. True faith expresses itself through anticipatory gratitude. It says, I don't see it yet, but I feel it, and for that, I give thanks. Gratitude is the vibrational signature of having already received, and that is why it attracts. Because the universe, as Jacobo Grinberg taught, does not respond to desire itself, but to the state of being. When you give thanks, You are declaring, I am someone who receives. And that identity creates the corresponding reality. Whoever masters the art of giving thanks masters the art of manifesting. If gratitude is the seed that plants the desired reality, trust is the fertile soil in which that seed can grow. Without trust, gratitude becomes merely a forced attempt to convince yourself. With trust, it transforms into a silent certainty, a surrender that touches directly the heart of the universe, or if you prefer, the heart of God. But what does it truly mean to trust? In its purest essence, trusting in God is to relinquish anxiety, fear, and the need to control the path. It is to declare from the heart, even if I don't understand, I accept. Even if I don't see, I proceed. And this surrender creates a rare but mighty frequency, the vibration of confident surrender. What many fail to see is that most people are not praying. They are complaining, begging, or attempting to manipulate the divine with promises. And when this happens, the energy conveyed is not faith, but desperation. There is no real trust there, only a plea laden with doubt and lack. But true prayer needs few words. Sometimes a silent phrase like I trust carries more light than 1,000 supplications, because it says, I know it is already done. Jacobo Grinberg taught us that reality responds not to what we ask for, but to the internal state we inhabit. If you live vibrating fear, anxiety, and doubt, even if you ask for the right things, the field of reality will continue reflecting that state of contraction. But if you live in gratitude and trust, the field reorganizes itself to return experiences aligned with that inner security, and this trust transcends the mind. It is spiritual. It arises from the recognition that a greater intelligence guides all processes. To trust in God is to acknowledge that you don't need to understand the path, only to walk it. It is to believe that what has not yet arrived is already in motion, organizing itself behind the scenes of the universe. It is to comprehend that just as the tree does not doubt the rain, you too need not doubt provision. In mystical traditions, true faith was never synonymous with fanaticism, but with an elevated vibration, a state of conscious surrender that activates an invisible kind of magnetism. When you trust, you emit a frequency that dissolves obstacles, reorganizes possibilities, and attracts unexpected solutions. You stop forcing and begin allowing. Therefore, when you say, from the depths of your heart, I trust, you're doing more than making a statement. You're communicating to the universe and to God that you are no longer bound by fear, that you are ready to receive. And it is at this point that manifestation ceases to be a technique and becomes a state of being. There are practices that transform not through complexity, but by the frequency they awaken. And some phrases, when repeated with presence and intention, have the power to completely alter the field around us. Among all, two stand out as pillars of any true manifestation. I am grateful, and I trust. These words are not mere declarations. They are vibrational states. When you say, I am grateful, you affirm to the universe that something is already real, that it already exists. Even if your physical eyes have yet to see it, you vibrate as one who has already received. And the universe, which responds to vibration rather than lack, begins to conspire to make it visible. When you say, I trust, you deactivate fear, release control, silence anxiety, and surrender. You stop acting like someone who must oversee the process and start flowing like someone who is already certain. It is in that space between recognition and surrender that manifestation happens. These two phrases should always be used together, consistently. They can and should be uttered at any moment of the day, upon waking, while driving, before making a decision, when facing uncertainty. But the most powerful application is to integrate them as a silent, daily, intimate practice, a ritual between you and God, between you and the field of creation. When you wake, instead of rushing into your commitments, Close your eyes for a few seconds. Breathe deeply. Feel what you desire, not as desire, but as presence. Visualize as though you were already living that reality, and gently say to yourself, I am grateful, I trust. Repeat several times, not as an obligation, but as if you were signing an agreement with the universe. Do not force emotion. Allow it to arise naturally. At night, before sleeping, do the same. Set aside the day's noise, the doubts, the conflicts, and enter a state of inner silence. Give thanks, not for what happened, but for what is yet to come. Trust, not because everything is clear, but because you know a path is being traced, even if invisible. It's important to understand, the less you share this process with others, the stronger it becomes. Not because it's a mystical secret, but because your energy remains intact. When you give thanks and trust in silence, you activate the code without external interference, without emotional noise, without judgment. These words become a vibrational shield. They protect your mind from doubt, fear, and haste. They place you in the mindset of someone who doesn't need to rush, of someone who is already on the way, of someone who lives in the right time. I am grateful. I trust. This is the vibration that opens doors. You may have expected the words mentioned at the start of this video to be secret phrases that alone would transform your life. But the truth is deeper and more powerful. The two words that change everything are gratitude and trust. And no, this does not mean you should mechanically repeat I am grateful or I trust as magic mantras, expecting the universe to bend at the sound of your voice. The key lies in the feeling. Whatever you say to yourself, any affirmation, prayer, or desire only gains true power when it is imbued with the vibration of gratitude and trust. It is not about what you say, it is about how you feel what you say. Gratitude is not just thanking for what you already have. It is recognizing that an invisible flow is operating in your favor, even when life seems senseless. Trust, in turn, is the silent faith that the universe's timing is perfect and that what you seek is already forming, even behind the chaos. The truth is, no one feels gratitude and trust automatically. You need to train these internal states as you would train a muscle. And one of the most powerful exercises is to look back on moments when everything seemed to go wrong and see how, in the end, something good emerged from them. Think about it. How many times have you suffered a loss, an ending, a closed door, and later realized that it was a disguised blessing? How many times did you feel punished when in fact you were being protected? Sometimes the universe leads us down confusing, painful, even unjust paths. But these paths free us from invisible traps. As they say, some evils come for a good. It is when you begin to perceive the hidden beauty in adversity that gratitude becomes real. And when you acknowledge that you don't need to understand everything to move forward, that is when trust is born. You don't need to know how something will happen. You only need to choose to feel that you are already being guided. That is the turning point. From that moment on, any word you speak, any desire, any visualization, any prayer will be cloaked in the energy that creates realities. And that is why these two words, gratitude and trust, change everything. Because they are not words you speak, they are frequencies you emit. And once those frequencies become your natural state, the world has no choice but to respond. You do not manifest what you want, you manifest who you are, and who you are is defined by your most recurrent internal state. That is why understanding gratitude and trust as occasional practices is not enough. True impact occurs when they become part of your way of living, of your outlook on the world, of your stance toward life's ups and downs. While many still believe that changing reality is a matter of repeating the right words or applying exact techniques, few realize that real transformation happens when you sustain a continuous vibration. When gratitude and trust are not just emotions accessed at specific moments, but natural attitudes toward life, you no longer need to force external change. the world begins to reorganize itself around you naturally. Living with gratitude is choosing to see everything as meaningful. It is recognizing value even in the smallest things. It is knowing how to perceive the lesson hidden even in painful experiences. This does not mean ignoring pain, but understanding that it too is part of the expansion process. When you choose to give thanks not only for what went right, but also for what broke you and strengthened you, you place yourself in a vibration above circumstances. Trust, when cultivated as a lifestyle, becomes freedom. You stop trying to control every detail. You cease demanding immediate answers. You no longer panic when something doesn't happen as you imagined. Because you know, and not just believe, that everything is falling into place. You walk lightly even on uncertain days, and that lightness is a clear sign of one who is in tune with abundance. Many think manifestation is something you do occasionally when you desire something specific, but those who live with gratitude and trust understand that manifestation is not an act, it is a consequence, a response from the universe to a coherent vibrational field. It is like a plant that blooms effortlessly because its roots have been well nurtured. And here lies the secret. When you maintain these two frequencies, gratitude and trust, as the foundation of your life, you emit a clear, strong, magnetic, energetic signal. You stop vibrating lack, urgency, and desperation, and the universe understands that you are not asking, you are ready. At that point, neither timing nor method nor outcome matters, because you are already vibrating as one who has. And those who already have, attract. Now that you understand the true power of these two words, gratitude and trust, it's time to turn this into a living practice. Reality doesn't change with what you know, but with what you choose to feel every day. Therefore, it's not enough just to watch. You must apply, and the first step is simple. Notice with presence the moments when your mind wants to complain, control, or doubt. And in those moments, choose a new stance. Breathe, acknowledge the lesson, and trust the process. Right here in the comments, I choose to live in gratitude and trust. This phrase is not for me. It is a commitment to yourself and a signal to the universe that your frequency has shifted. If this content has touched your heart, subscribe to the channel to keep receiving messages like this. We are building a community that believes in the power of consciousness and transformation from within. Share this video with someone who needs to remember that there is a better path, a path that begins with two words and a new vibration. You don't need to chase after the life you desire. You only need to vibrate as one who already lives it.